I'm Josh, and I'm going to be your English professor this semester. I've been teaching at COS for a long time, and I've always thought that asynchronous online classes like this one kind of suck. Like, usually in an asynchronous online class, we spend a ton of time hanging around in discussion boards where nobody's talking, waiting for instructions from an instructor who feels a million miles away, and just hoping against hope that the teacher doesn't drop some enormous high-stakes assignment on us at the very end of the class. But I don't think it has to be that way. This semester I'm trying something different, and to help you get a sense of what I'm planning, I want to talk to you about video games. The odds are pretty good that you recognize this, but if not, this is World 1-1 of the original Super Mario Bros. For the Nintendo Entertainment System. It was the first game that I ever played, and with some exceptions, pretty much everyone plays it the same way. The game is a series of levels which we're supposed to go through in order. We start at the beginning of the level and we go to the end. There's no turning back, we move in a straight line. That's how most online classes are too, including mine until this experiment. Here's my Canvas shell from the spring. We start at the beginning, I have one module for each week, and each thing we do follows a certain order. Here's how my assignment sequence used to look. We start with the writing sample, then move on to the first writing project, and then to the second, and then to the final portfolio. Straight lines. It's normal and familiar, but I don't think it really takes advantage of what an online class can be like. Here's another game. This is Hollow Knight, and it works a lot differently. When you start a new game in Hollow Knight, almost immediately you have a choice, right or left. And if you go left, a few things happen. First, you get rewarded for exploring. Second, it's clear that you can't go any farther this way. But third, and maybe most importantly, the game shows you that there is more to see in this direction. You just can't get there yet. At this point in the game, really all you can do is jump. But as you move through the game, you gain new abilities and skills. You can double jump, for example, and jump off of walls. And if you return to this spot later in the game, the pathway the game showed you at the very beginning leads to a whole new area of the game to explore. Hollow Knight belongs to a category of game called Metroidvania, named after two of the most classic examples of that genre. Metroid, released in 1986 for the NES, and Castlevania Symphony of the Night, released in 1997 for the PlayStation. What makes games like Hollow Knight different from games like Super Mario Bros. Is that instead of giving you a series of levels to complete in a linear order, Metroidvanias give you a whole world to explore, in whatever order makes the most sense to you. If there's an area that you find too difficult, you can usually go somewhere else and come back later. If you see a pathway you can't get to, you can usually trust that you'll find a way to get there eventually. And whatever path you take, you're building skills, collecting tools, and learning new ways of solving problems. If a normal online English 1 class is like Super Mario Bros., my goal for this semester is to create a class that works more like a Metroidvania. Instead of telling you how to do what and in what order, I want to open up the whole class to you right at the beginning of the semester. Here's what I'm imagining this might look like. We'll still start with a writing sample, and let's call it a tutorial, because really the purpose is to help us all get our bearings in the class. But after that, things will open up a lot. Right now, I think there will be 4 projects, and 3 of those will be open to you right from the start. I'll explain what these projects are all about in a minute. You'll get to choose which project you start with based on which seems most interesting and achievable to you. Each project will still have us learning the things we need as we go, so it won't be completely non-linear. But as we learn things, that will also open up other possibilities for us elsewhere. And here's where I think this starts to get pretty cool. All of these skills are things that we'll need to learn in this class, and most of them will be needed for every project, but not in the same way and not in the same order. Take integrating quotations as an example. All of our writing projects will involve integrating quotations. In the Proving Grounds, we'll need that skill early on, but in the Great Library, we won't need it until approximately 2/3 of the way through. And in the Veil of Mysteries, we won't need it until the very end. Reading strategies, on the other hand, will show up very early in the Veil of Mysteries and the Proving Grounds, but not until much later in the Great Library. And so each project will proceed in a different way, but as you move through one project, you'll make it easier to move through the others. At the end of the semester, we'll submit a final portfolio, which will be our chance to show off the best work we've done throughout the semester. This is just kind of a rough sketch, but I hope you can see how this approach might give you a lot more freedom in the way that you tackle a class. And, if all goes well, I also hope to add at least one more possible project that's a little more fun. I'll leave it vague for now, but if I can make it happen, it will count as a major project. Currently, my plan is that you need to clear at least 2 major areas, that is, complete at least 2 major writing projects, to pass the class, and 3 if you want an A or a B. This is all a little abstract, so let me tell you a little more about the projects we'll be taking on this semester. I may add another option or 2 later on, but these will for sure be available to us at the start of the semester. We'll start with the Proving Grounds. Figuratively, the term proving grounds refers to a place where a technology, theory, or idea is tested to see how it works. Automotive proving grounds, for example, are places where they test cars to see how fast they can go. If I build something that I think will work, the proving grounds are where I go to see if it actually works the way I want it to. It's also a term for a military training ground, a place where people get ready for battle, to test one another, to see what they're capable of. As we enter the proving grounds in our class, I want you to imagine that you're entering a sparring arena, like this one from The Matrix.
I know Kung Fu. Show me.
You're here to test yourself against an opponent, to see if they can really live up to their claims. What we're testing, though, is not their fighting ability, it's the quality of their argument. If we want to know if an argument is true and a conclusion is good, we've got to take that argument apart. By the time we leave the proving grounds, we'll know once and for all how strong their argument is.
I know what you're trying to do. I'm trying to free your mind, Neo.
This process, evaluating an argument, questioning an answer, is our task in the proving grounds. You could also choose to start in the Veil of Mysteries. Supposedly, in the first temple in Jerusalem, the innermost sanctum, called the Holy of Holies, was separated from the rest of the temple by a veil. Only the highest and most dedicated were allowed into that space, and as a result, it was the site of the most sacred mysteries of the Jewish faith at the time. As a result, the phrase "beyond the veil" has made its way into English as a phrase meaning things that are unknowable, mysteries beyond human comprehension. As we enter the Veil of Mysteries in our classroom, imagine you're standing on the edge of a dark forest, shrouded in fog. You don't know what's in there, and it's the kind of place where you might get lost. But there is stuff to find in there, for sure, and who knows what might be on the other side. To paraphrase the poet, the only way out is through. The fog in these woods isn't literal, of course. It's the foggy space in our minds between what we believe, what we know, and what is true. Truth is tricky. We've all heard someone tell a story that we were a part of and thought, well, yeah, that's what happened, but that's not how it felt. We've all remembered things one way and then found some jarring proof that they didn't happen that way after all. The essays in the Veil of Mysteries will ask us to explore that space of uncertainty. I'll present you with a number of essays that challenge, complicate, or critique the idea of truth as a simple, straightforward concept, but that do so by making specific, verifiable claims about the world, about what kind of dentures George Washington wore, or how many car accidents occur in Las Vegas every year, or whether Abraham Lincoln grew a beard to attract voters. I'll ask you to read several of these essays and to choose 1 or 2 to focus on in an essay that evaluates the argument the writer or writers are making about truth and how we decide what is true.
One last thing. Beware the unknown. Fear the beast and leave these woods if you can.
The third path open to you at the beginning of the class will be the Great Library. We come to the Great Library just like everyone else who's ever visited a library, with a question in our minds. Something we want to know, something we want to discover. Some of the most important questions we have are those where we don't know who to trust, where it's not entirely clear which information and whose expertise is reliable. And the more important the question is, the more careful we need to be as we go about finding answers. As you enter the Great Library, imagine entering a library, but not just any library, an infinite library containing all the world's knowledge, endless alcoves filled with untold information. You'll start your journey in the Great Library by trying to fix a question in your mind. Something that matters to you, something that you're personally interested in, and something that we genuinely don't have an answer for. That will help us decide what exactly we want to find out in this place of limitless knowledge. In the Great Library, we'll dive into the vast ocean of information available to us as we seek an answer to an important question. At the end of that process, we'll make a case for the answers we've found.
This place is impossible. How does anyone find anything? There's a whole wing on cat paintings.
Ultimately, this is a class where you get to decide the path you take through the class. You get to explore and choose your own path and figure out what makes the most sense to you to tackle first. And as you go, you'll be building skills, completing tasks, and collecting tools that'll help you progress not only through the project you're working on now, but through the future projects as well. I imagine each of you will follow a different path through this course, and that's part of what excites me about this, getting to work with students who are working on things that you're excited about, not just following some path that I've laid out for you. This video is meant to be a quick introduction to the approach that I'm going to be taking with this class. Trust me when I tell you that there's going to be a lot more structure and support built into this class as I talk to you guys about what to do on a day-to-day basis, and you'll have lots of chances to talk to me about what is and isn't working throughout the semester. I did a test run of this class during summer school, and I learned a lot from that. But even so, this project is big and weird and complicated, and it's definitely not going to go the way we intend. We'll have some hiccups as we go, and especially given the limitations of Canvas, and I'll probably have to make some pretty substantial changes as we go. But that's okay. I think it'll be fun for us to try, and I look forward to seeing what we can do together. Good luck.